almost everybody that I speak to um, says that because there has been a drop down from the erstwhile valuations, it makes us wanting to look at these companies. But nobody's quite saying that they are nibbling at them, let alone buying them lock, stock, barrel. Right? I mean, there are people who are buying them, of course, because the block deals are happening in there and the stock is being bought. But what I mean is, when I speak to people that I have been talking to for the last so many years, doing bottom-up strategies, etc., there's not as much interest. Now, what will it take for an Ayaz Motiwala to go out and invest into any of these names? Would it be a further drop down in valuations because then the price bakes in the negatives, or is it some change in direction, like for example an EBITDA break-even guidance, or is it something else?
Sure. I would I'd try and address this with a company which I know slightly better, and then the company which is a little distance away, but I would want to sort of make an educated guesswork on what I would expect to see, let's say, right? So the first easier one is the second sort of category of company. Say a company like Policy Bazaar, actually on the face of it, fairly easy to understand business, which is getting basically consumers to buy policies across the board online through their portal. And then once you have this whole consumer data, try and upsell other pieces of service. Very simple business model, but it is trying to change consumer habits with a large established market. It will take its time, and that's why we've seen their challenge on growth. But it seems to be on the path to be able to break even if they were to choose to lift the pedal of the escalator or the accelerator, a little bit to try and get to EBITDA break even and beyond. So that is sort of one category of company where we get the confidence that the business model is established, right? So that right now the business models are up in the air in terms of how they're morphing, and they themselves are very proud of the fact on what is called pivoting the business model, which is a sort of commonly used word in the tech world today. Now we contrast that with, say, a company like Zomato, which is again, eating habits are established but are much more rigid to the theoretical sort of audience, which you sort of have 14 to 21 meals on a weekly basis, and how much can we get a share out of? One. Second, how much efficiently can we deliver that and get that turned over? And third is that these are all sort of they spike at the same time, because either office or lunch and dinner hours are sort of standard between 12:30 and 2:30, and probably 7 and 9 p.m. in the Indian context, right? So what do these sort of either employed or third-party engaged rider drivers or service providers, what all can be done with them? So they've got in this sort of grocery delivery, instant grocery delivery, Blinkit type of business along with that, which is the utilization of the core as we see it, right? So these are some of the factors to sort of put it out, which we'd like to see them settle down, to have a credible business, right? I mean, today, if you talk about Unilever in the Indian context, that they have 40% gross margins on the soap business, right? And yes, they will take a knock of 2 or 3% on gross margins when the palm oil inflation goes completely out of whack, and they can't raise prices in the very immediate 1 sort of quarter, but they'll come back, and that is the nature of this business. So I guess once that steadiness comes in, along with the fact that that the growth may take a little bit of a tempering, I think that would be a good point where these things would be starting to make a lot more sense than where they are today. And lastly, you pointed out that when we see the bulk deals on, say, a Nykaa sell down by the erstwhile private investors or private equity investors, we've seen some of the domestic mutual funds buying a bit of those blocks. But for their size, I think you're right. They're barely sort of just, dipping their feet into it. And it'll be interesting to see what they also do as fellow investors.